It always starts the same way you're in. The middle of your day, running between errands, calls, tasks you didn't even plan. When another message pops up, can you help me with this? Can you cover for me? Can you just jump on a quick call? And of course you say, yes, you always do. It's not even a decision anymore. It's a reflex. You show up, solve the problem, make it better, and around you people smile, relieved, grateful their lives are lighter, easier because of you, but inside, something else is happening. Your chest feels tighter. Your plans for the day, the ones that matter to you, get pushed to tomorrow again, and the energy you woke up with is leaking out drip by drip, until by evening you're sitting there, wondering how another day passed without you ever really touching the things that light you up. Everyone else is happy, but you are exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that even sleep doesn't fix. Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you're living it, and it brings us to a deeper, quieter question most people never ask. What happens when you stop being so available? What happens to the world around you? And even more importantly, what happens to the world inside you when you step back? Before we begin, if you're someone who loves exploring these deeper currents of life, questioning what's normal and expanding your mind beyond the everyday noise, make sure you subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. Here we open doors to the conversations your soul has been waiting for. And now, let's continue. Most people think being constantly available is just what good people do. You're responsible, helpful, and reliable, but what no one tells you is that availability isn't neutral. It's not just about kindness, it's about energy exchange. Every yes you say to someone else is a little no whispered to yourself over time. If you're not careful, those whispers add up until one day you look around and realize you're living a life you didn't really choose, a life where everyone else's needs, demands, and dramas take center stage while your own dreams collect dust somewhere backstage. Carl Jung, the great explorer of the human psyche, spoke about this inner conflict in ways most modern psychologists still struggle to touch. He said that we each carry within us a self, a deep vital center that longs to be fully realized. But if you spend your life adapting to what others want, responding to every call, every need, every expectation, you never hear it. You drown out the song of your own soul. And here's the most haunting part. The self doesn't go away. It waits, aches, and grows restless until eventually something cracks. Sometimes it's a burnout that won't heal, a deep depression that no external achievement can fix, a vague gnawing feeling that no matter how successful you look on the outside, you're lost. Young called the journey back to wholeness individuation. It's the process of waking up from the roles you've been playing: good daughter, reliable friend, perfect partner, model, employee, and remembering who you were before the world told you who you had to be. An individuation always starts in the same uncomfortable place, when you stop saying yes just because you're afraid of what happens if you say no. You see, when you are always reachable, you are unconsciously writing a story, one where your worth is tied to your usefulness, your accessibility, your sacrifice. You may not even realize you're doing it, but the energy you give teaches others how to treat you, and not just others, it teaches you how to see yourself. Every time you answer a call that drains you, show up to an event you dread, or offer help from a place of guilt instead of joy, you are reinforcing an invisible message to yourself: my needs are secondary, my voice doesn't matter. If I'm not available, I'm not lovable. But these messages aren't facts. They are patterns, and patterns can be changed. Jung famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The good news is the moment you begin to notice the pattern, the moment you become even a little bit conscious of it, everything can begin to change. But here's something no one tells you about awakening, the first stage of reclaiming your energy. Doesn't feel like peace. It feels like fear, guilt, and loss, because the parts of you that survive by being the yes person are terrified of what happens when you stop. So let's pause here for a moment and sit with the real question: what if the exhaustion, the resentment, the emptiness you've been feeling isn't a sign that you're broken or ungrateful or not trying hard enough? What if it's Actually, your soul knocking at the door, asking you to come home. What if the life you've been building by always being available isn't your real life at all? There's a strange, almost magical thing that happens when you stop being constantly available. At first, it's subtle, almost imperceptible, like the shift of the wind right before a storm. You say no to one event you would have forced yourself to attend. You let a call go unanswered without scrambling to apologize. You take an afternoon just for yourself, and you don't explain why. And while outwardly nothing seems to explode, inwardly something enormous begins to stir. It's like standing at the shoreline after years of swimming out into everyone else's currents. You plant your feet back on solid ground, and for the first time in a long time, you can hear your own heartbeat again. But reality doesn't let you off that easily, because the moment you withdraw your energy from old dynamics, the structures built around your constant availability, the relationships, the obligations, the silent expectations begin to shake, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're no longer playing the role you were unconsciously cast into. Some people will be confused, some will be angry, some will quietly drift away without a word. And if you're not prepared for this part, it can feel devastating. It can feel like you're losing everything, but the truth is you're not losing anything real. You are losing only the illusions that could survive as long as you stayed asleep. Carl Jung taught that whenever the ego, the surface self, the persona, is disrupted, the deeper self has a chance to emerge, but it comes at a cost. The old structures must fall, the old attachments must be seen for what they are: survival strategies, not soul connections. Think of your availability like an invisible web you've been spinning for years. Each thread connects to someone or something: a friend who only calls when they need something, a job that demands endless overtime, a family dynamic where you are the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who smooths things over. You don't even realize how much of your life is entangled in that web until you start cutting the threads one by one. And when you do, some things fall away with a jarring finality. It hurts. It feels like betrayal and loneliness, but it's not death, it's rebirth. There's a beautiful term in spiritual psychology, spiritual disillusionment. It sounds painful, and it is, but it's also necessary. It's the process of seeing clearly for the first time where you had been living inside dreams that weren't yours, inside expectations that didn't serve your soul, inside roles you never truly chose. When you pull back your availability, you're not just reclaiming your time, you're reclaiming your attention, the most sacred resource you have. You're telling the universe with your actions, not just your words: I choose to honor my own being. I choose to live in integrity with myself. And when you do this, something even more surprising happens. Reality itself begins to reshape around you. You may notice that the people who only valued you for what you could do for them, not who you were, start to fade from your life. You may find that certain opportunities dry up, the ones that were fueled by your self-betrayal, not your true power. You might even have entire chapters of your life close without warning or ceremony. But the good thing is, everything that leaves your life when you honor yourself was never truly yours to begin with. The friendships that dissolve, the jobs that fall away, the roles you can no longer stomach, they were sustained by the version of you that said yes to everything, no matter the cost. Now that you're living differently, your life has to rearrange itself to match your truth. It's not punishment, it's alignment. And yes, it feels messy, it feels terrifying, it feels like standing on the edge of a cliff with no map, no guidebook, no guarantee. But what waits on the other side is worth everything, because when you stop being unconsciously available to the old life, you finally become consciously available to your real life, the life your soul has been trying to build all along. Jung said, it's simply yet profoundly the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But privilege doesn't mean easy. It means rare, sacred, and earned. You earn it by being willing to feel the discomfort of the old world dissolving by facing the loneliness that comes when you no longer fill every empty space with noise and busyness, and by learning to trust yourself even when everything familiar feels like it's slipping away. The first thing that shifts when you stop being available is you change the world you perceive, and the world that perceives you changes too, but that opens an even deeper mystery. If the external world is merely a mirror of our inner world, then what new reality could you build if you started living from your inner truth rather than your survival reflexes? At first, it might feel like nothing much is happening. You're saying no more often, you're taking more time. Alone, you're sitting with your own thoughts instead of rushing to fill every empty space. And while part of you expects fireworks or some grand revelation, what actually arrives is silence, a vast, unfamiliar stillness. It can feel unnerving at first, like stepping into a dark room where the old lights don't work anymore. But before the real magic happens, there's always a pause, a sacred emptiness, a clearing. Because when you stop pouring your energy into what drains you, it doesn't immediately rush back into your life. Like a flood, it gathers, reforms it, teaches you slowly how to hold it again. And that's when the deeper transformation begins, the kind that doesn't just change your mood or your relationships, but changes the very frequency you broadcast into the world. Carl Jung believed that everything we attract, everything we experience is not random, it is synchronistic, meaning it matches the energy patterns within us. You don't meet new people, new opportunities, new realities by accident. You meet them because they mirror something that has awakened or something that needs to awaken within you. When you lived in the old pattern, the pattern of over-availability, over-giving, overextending, you attracted realities that fed on that energy, jobs that drained you, friendships that took without giving, situations where you were needed but never truly nourished. It wasn't a punishment, it wasn't fate, it was simply a reflection. But now you are no longer offering that same energy to the world. Now you are holding your center. Now you are valuing yourself even when no one else claps or cheers or validates you for it. And so the mirror begins to change. In spiritual terms, what's happening is this: you are shifting your vibration, not by trying to force positivity or by faking confidence, but by being different at the root level. You are no longer available for transactions that deplete your spirit. You're no longer available for relationships that require you to abandon yourself to belong. You are no longer available for the smallness you once called survival, and because of that, you no longer magnetize those realities to you. Instead, new opportunities, people, and experiences start to align, but only in proportion to your ability to hold this new energy. This is why the early stage feels so delicate, almost fragile, because the universe is asking, can you trust this new way of being even when nothing outside you has changed yet? It's a test of soul patience and trust. In the old paradigm, we are taught that if we want something, we must chase it, run harder, work longer, be more visible, make ourselves more palatable. But Jung and so many other spiritual traditions whisper a different truth. True power is magnetic, not desperate. When you live in alignment with yourself, you don't have to chase what's meant for you. You draw it in effortlessly, simply because of the energy you carry. You become like a lighthouse, not a searchlight. You shine steadily and the right ships find you. But this isn't just about attracting better things. It's about living differently. It's about waking up each morning with your energy intact instead of scattered across 1,000 obligations. It's about knowing deep in your bones that you are enough even when no one is asking for your help. It's about finally feeling at home inside yourself, even when the world outside feels chaotic. And yes, it's about trusting that the universe is not your enemy, it is your mirror. And when you change the reflection you offer, the reflections you receive must also change. So here's a powerful invitation for you. Start noticing where your energy still leaks out of unconscious habits. Start Paying attention to where you still say yes when your soul is screaming no. Start honoring the places inside you that ache. For rest, for boundaries, for sovereignty. Not because you are selfish, but because you are sacred. Your availability, your energy, and your life are sacred. In the moment you begin living as if that's true, the whole universe begins to respond in kind. But this leads us into a deeper, even more important question. If your old self was wired for availability and you're stepping into a new self built on sacred sovereignty, who exactly are you becoming? There's a strange grief that comes when you stop living on autopilot. At first, it doesn't make sense. You're doing what every self-help book and spiritual teacher says: setting boundaries, honoring your energy, choosing yourself, and yet you miss your old life. You miss the feeling of being needed, the busyness that kept the loneliness at bay, and the false sense of purpose that came from being everyone's go-to person. It's important to say this out loud. Grieving your old self is part of becoming your real self, because that old self, the available, over-giving version of you, wasn't a mistake. They were a survivor. They learned in whatever ways they had to how to earn love, acceptance, belonging. They did the best they could with what they knew, and now you're doing something your old self never dared to believe was possible. You are choosing yourself without permission, without apology, without waiting for someone else to validate it. And that's not just a shift, it's a revolution. Carl Jung often spoke about the archetypes that live within us, the inner characters we embody as we move through life: the caregiver, the hero, the martyr, the seeker. Each of these roles has wisdom, each has shadows, and each, if we're not conscious, can quietly take over our lives. When you lived in the pattern of constant availability, you were embodying the archetype of the caretaker, the one who believes deep down that love must be earned through service, the one who feels safest when needed, useful, indispensable. But the journey of individuation, the journey Jung said was the true goal of human life, demands that we don't stay trapped in a single archetype. It demands that we evolve, that we become whole, and wholeness means reclaiming the parts of yourself you left behind: the artist, the wanderer, the mystic, the wild one who dreams not of being useful, but of being free. So the question now is not how can I be more available to others? The real question is, what will my life look like if I became available to myself, available to my own dreams, to my own body, to my own wild, sacred intuition? What if your purpose isn't to be everything to everyone, but to become everything you were born to be? There's a beautiful story that floats around spiritual circles, and though it's told in many versions, the heart of it is the same. Before you were born, before you took your first breath, you knew exactly who you were. You carried your soul's song clear and strong. You knew your gifts, your calling, your infinite belonging. But the world, noisy, wounded, fearful, made you forget. They said, be good, be quiet, be helpful, be small. And so, like a warrior laying down their sword, you set aside your true self, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. You knew you had to survive first, but survival is not living in now. Now, after all the years of forgetting, you are remembering slowly, tenderly, and fiercely. You're picking up the pieces of yourself that you once thought were lost forever. You are singing your soul's song again, even if your voice trembles. And the universe, which has been waiting breathless for you to remember, is responding when you stop being available for everything that isn't aligned with your soul. You don't lose your life. You find it. You don't become less loving, less kind, less generous. You become more, because your love is no longer filtered through fear. You don't become hard or selfish. You become soft in the right places and strong where it matters most. You don't end up alone. You end up surrounded by the people, the opportunities, the experiences that are truly meant for you, because you're no longer busy carrying everyone else's burdens. Carl Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Terrifying and liberating. When you accept yourself, completely not just the polished parts, but the messy, wild, inconvenient parts, you step into a kind of freedom most people never even dare to dream of. You are no longer a character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. You are no longer dancing for scraps of love. You are sitting at the banquet of your own wholeness. You are no longer trying to fix, to rescue, to prove. You are simply being fully, unapologetically, radiantly. And so, as we close this journey together, I want to leave you with a blessing. May you have the courage to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. May you have the wisdom to know when a no is a sacred act of love. May you have the strength to let old worlds crumble so that your true life can rise. And may you remember always that you were never meant to be endlessly available to the world. You were meant to be available first and foremost to your own soul. Everything else, real, love, real, connection, real, purpose flows from there. Thank you for walking this path with me today. If today's message stirred something inside you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom for more soulful conversations and mind-expanding insights. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, be fierce with your boundaries, and never forget you are sacred.